Hey, everybody. I just want to talk to you a little bit about our experience with discipleship. What led us to be more intentional and relational in our approach? I think because I noticed that discipleship was happening accidentally. And I just realized we don't fulfill the Great Commission accidentally. Um, so we really need to be purposeful if we're going to really go into all the world and make disciples of every nation. If we're going to really, do what Second Timothy 2:2 says, and we're going to, entrust things to reliable people who will be able to also, pass that on to others. That needs to be intentional, not accidental. I know when I grow in my garden vegetables and things like that, the only thing that accidentally grows is weeds. If you actually want good fruit, you got to be purposeful. The reason we went relational too is because discipleship is more than just intellectual. That's a big mistake that sometimes people make. They think that all we have to do is teach people to know certain things, but knowing is not enough. It's the doing and the living that's important. James reminds us that we're to be not just hearers of the word, but doers, right? In fact, if we're just hearers, James reminds us that we can deceive ourselves. We deceive ourselves because we think because we know something, we're good. But that's not enough to know. You've also got to do. And so these relational groups, intentional relational groups, really help people kind of flesh out what does it mean and what does it look like to follow Jesus in real life. And so we wanted to steer into that on purpose. So what attracted us to the microgroup model, quite frankly, was some exploration on my own of like, how can we best make disciples? And I ran across Greg Ogden's work on that, on discipleship, and just read that and just became completely convinced that discipleship best happens in those groups of 3 or 4. Because in those long-term relational groups where you spend a lot of time together with a few people, you can really open up and you can really connect with others at a very deep level. And also makes it easy if someone can't make it to like reschedule the group so that you can keep moving together. If you have a group of 10 or 12, it's easy to hide. It's really hard to hide when there's only 3 or 4 of you. And so I became convinced that indeed, like Greg tells us, these are hot houses of spiritual growth. And now that I'm leading my 4th and 5th groups now, I can tell you that's exactly what they are, and I wouldn't do it any other way. So what am I seeing in the people who've participated? I'm seeing growth like they've never experienced in their life before. So many stories I could tell you about this. I have a gentleman who has attended multiple churches. He's in his 70s, and he's been on multiple church boards. And he told me, in his experience of being in a microgroup, that he's never been closer to Jesus than he is right now as a part of this group. That's the difference that it's made in his life. I've seen other people who are so stagnant in their Christian life, they're sort of barely hanging on, all of a sudden take steps in their life toward incredible growth and service because their faith got energized in these groups. We've seen some vibrant testimonies that way of people who feel so much closer to Jesus, who are way more connected to other people now and are moving forward in their life in such an on-fire dimension that they've never experienced in their life before. To be honest with you, I'm more concerned that people go to their microgroup than I am in going to Sunday morning church, because that microgroup fires up that devotion for Jesus and an excitement for Jesus. I was pulling out of the church parking lot just yesterday, and there was a lady walking across, and I just stopped to wave at her, and she had such an expression of joy and anticipation and excitement on her face. She said, "I'm going to meet with my microgroup." And she waved at me and kept going because she didn't want to miss it because it was meeting in one of the group's rooms at church. So absolutely, they're worth it, and they're so transformational. So how has the generational reproduction been going? So what's happening as people are like taking the mantle and then doing their own groups? Well, we're kind of in the 3rd generation of that now. I started by doing 2 different groups, one microgroup of men and one of women. because I wanted to infuse it in both groups. And then I allowed the women's group to continue and do women. I wasn't going to do that beyond that first year. I wanted to empower them. And so, that was me with this group of 3, so 4 plus me and another group. So there were 7 of us. Well, the second year, all of us went out and did another group. So all 7 went out and they did their own group, which was outstanding. So now you have 7 people, and some of them had a mix of 3 and 4 people in them. So as we turned the corner and entered our third year, what we had was now 19 of the people that were in those groups were now leading a microgroup. So we're at a place right now where we're in the mid-60s to 70 people who are participating in these microgroups. And right now we're in the month of April. So as we have our eye on September, that's when we're going to take the next turn. And our goal is to see 200 people in microgroups, is to see 50 microgroups taking place. And so we really believe, based on some things that we've done in surveying, that we can get there. So we've seen that ability to pass this on, to disciple people who will disciple people who will disciple people. And the exciting thing is, as they pray themselves and seek God, like He is leading them to work with people that I never would have picked. And they are reaching people that probably I would never be able to really identify with. And help connect to Jesus. And I can really see the potential of this growing. It's already, we have people in our groups that are outside of our church. And so even in the 60 plus that we have, 60 to 70 now, I can only imagine how much more that's going to be the case as we get to the 200 level. One of our ladies who's in a group, when it's a Zoom group, she actually lives in Florida. So she's going to be doing it in Florida. She's a snowbird, we call them in New England. They live up here part of the year, in Florida the other year. So who knows who she's going to reach. And other people are already talking about people that I never would have imagined. And we're so excited about it. So we are seeing that generational turn happen. What do I see as the hopeful future of this ministry is I really believe it's going to equip the lay people of our church to do what Jesus called us to do, go and make disciples. Sometimes I think that we pastors think that, or we act as if Jesus only said that to us, those of us in full-time ministry. He said that to all of us. The problem is we've never really had a tool that we could hand off to other people to enable them to do it. Like we didn't have a philosophy. At least I was never taught that. I was never taught that in the college I went to, the seminary I went to, even in the university I went to for my doctor of ministry. We weren't taught a specific way to do that, but that's what this offers you. It gives you a way to actually fulfill the Great Commission in your area. And so that's what we're really hoping for and believing for. And so the hopeful future is for that to happen. And actually beyond that, we really believe that we're going to see not only our region touched, but other churches influenced, other disciples made. It's not about growing our church. It's about growing His church. And Jesus has given us the model to do that. So thanks for watching today. And hopefully this answered some questions that you might have. But I'm a big believer of this. I've told my own group, again, I'm leading my 5th group now. And I've told everyone, I've told our entire church, I'm going to do this the rest of my life. I so believe in it. This is something I'm committed to. Even when I retire from being a pastor, I'm never going to retire from doing microgroups, because there's something about being in those microgroups and discipling people in this format that actually makes you feel like you're doing real ministry, life on life connection with people and helping them walk with Jesus. God bless you guys.